In this video, we're going to use our texture map to generate the normal map and then the specular map using normal map online. I'll begin by turning off the UV map so I see just my textures, and because any kind of imagery will generate some sort of a texture on our geometry, I'm also going to turn off the sky layer that I've created because I don't want the sky clouds to be imprinted on the wall. I want it to be flat. I'm also going to turn off the plate for the doorknob and the door plate. With the JPEG open, I need to make the areas that are already 3D, meaning the window, the door, and the frame, white. Otherwise, it will generate this normal, specular kind of a gnarliness. So in order to avoid that, I'll marquee select all of them, and I'll hit D on the keyboard to get my default for white, and I'll put my white on top of my swatches in Photoshop. And I'll either hit Option Delete or I'll use my paint bucket. I'll deselect. What I want to do also is I want to put some gray boxes here where the wall would be for our sky, just to kind of emphasize that we can create our own bump maps in Photoshop if we wanted to. So if we wanted this perhaps maybe to have a window on it without having to model the geometry, I could go in and I would probably start in that same area where the wall actually is. We usually start with 50% and work backwards and forwards, adding lighter or dark values, depending if we want things to recede or push forward. So once I've got the selection, I'll hit Option Delete, I'll deselect. I'll get my marquee and I'll just make a shape in the middle, kind of like a window. I'll pick a lighter value and I'll go ahead and fill it. I'll deselect. And if I wanted to, I could make a marquee selection inside of that. Nothing really special. I'll make that black. So what's going to happen is the middle value kind of sets the balance of it all. We've got a light value here and a dark value in there. And I'll go ahead and save that, and then we'll open up Normal Map online. I've opened up the PDF that I've provided you from our last tutorial, and I'm going to copy the normal map link. It opens up in Safari by default, and Safari really isn't responsive to that, so I'll copy it, and then I'll go to Chrome and open it. Now all we need to do is find our texture map. I'll drag and drop my JPEG into the black box at the left-hand side, and you can see once you do, it's set for normal by default. And pretty much the strength of this will increase the colors of the rainbow in this file. So the more colors you see, the more extreme the texture will be. And you'll see it's very flat in the areas that reflect where our window and door were. Now you'll also see an imprint of the window shape we made using just gray values that appear over on this side. So once I have something I want down at the bottom of the application, I'll click on download, and you'll see the file has been generated in your download folder with the name normal map preceding the .png or JPG. All right, so now I'll go and I'll choose specular, and the same thing applies. You'll be able to play with the values of that file, and it'll update on the model to the right floating in that window. So if I wanted to, I could go and I could play with the range of this. And based on what we did to the actual texture itself, you can see that these different values will give us different depths. So once I have something I want to try, I'll click on download. Now all we need to do is bring these into Maya. In Maya, I'll select one of the pieces of the model, right-clicking and choosing Material Attributes. In the Material Attributes on the right-hand side, we'll scroll down and we're looking for the term geometry. And when you open it, you'll see there's two options, opacity or bump. So I'll click on the checkerboard at the far right-hand side of the bump channel, and I'll click on File. And over here where it says Bump Value, I'll go ahead and click on the little box with the triangle inside, and I'll navigate out to my folder to get that texture. So I've selected the normal map first, and I'll click on Open. You'll see that the textures have been applied with the window as well that we generated with just the grayscale imagery. I'll just go to Arnold, open Arnold Render View. I'm going to give it a render to see what it looks like. We also have the option to change the weight of the normal map and the bump map by using the attributes for the bump map feature. We'll do that by going to our material attributes, and down where we introduce the bump map, I'll click on the box and you'll see you get the option to reload, edit view. At the top, if we click on the little second box down with the triangle, you'll see bump value and bump depth. The value represents the texture map, and that can't really be adjusted, but the one below will allow us to make it more intense by dragging to the right, the larger the number. With the whites and gray values pushing forward, if I go to the left where the numbers become minus, it reverses that function so that the darks push forward and the light values recede. Now we'll go ahead and we'll introduce our specular map. In my texture node, I'll go to bump mapping. I'll right click on bump mapping and choose break connection. And again, I'll click on the checkerboard. I'll go to file and I'll go out to get that map generated, and you'll see pretty much the same effect. So the only difference between these two is where they would be applied. Had it been a game environment, I would have needed the normal map as opposed to a specular, and that would be something that would work in Unreal Engine or Unity.